Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes, bringing you another Old Man Orange Presents Via VHS episode. One of them from the rarities vault that we have from back in the day that just never got put out. So come join us for another fun-filled retro movie review. Let's jump on in.
So welcome to another episode of the Via VHS Retro Movie Podcast. Tonight we're going full schlock. We're going full B-movie. We're going to Devil's Island. We're going to talk about the assault on Devil's Island. Not a real historical thing. Be cool if it was, but it's not. We're talking Hulk Hogan. We're talking Carl Weathers. We're talking Shannon Tweed. We're talking about Playmate of the Year, 1981 or two, one of those two. You got, Mr. Universe arms over there. Not really Mr. Universe, but might as well be. And then, of course, Carl Weathers, who we both adore tremendously. Shadow Warriors Assault on Devil's Island. Here's the thing. Before you go looking for this, of course, I'm Wesley, your host, and then joined by Mr. Scott Holmes. We were both confused as fuck, trying to figure out what we were watching initially. Correct?
Correct. But really, it's all due to what kind of happened is that the way that the titles go in this movie is that Assault on Devil's Island is what the TNT's name was when it came out in 1997. Then Shadow Warriors is what they called it in Canada when they put it out on VHS. And then when a company put it out on DVD, like in 2001, they got the first and second movies backwards, and that's how they sent them out. So then it just has made it confusing ever since. And then the next company that put the DVD out got it fixed. But we still live in a world where you got to be careful which version's coming up when you type this title in.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And even the logos get meant, like the one I watched, the logo Shadow Warriors 2 actually comes up. It literally says that. And so I'm like, well, I don't want to watch the second one, but this seems like the first one. The synopsis says this is 1997. So then I went to Roku, which is the only streaming service at the moment that I found that had this. And they had it mixed up, like the literal movie mixed up, not just the title. Like it said it was Assault on Devil's Island. I click on it, and it's not. It was the Death Mountain one. And so, which is the sequel. So yeah, it was kind of a mess. So if you decide to watch along with us, we'll eventually discuss the synopsis here, and then you'll know which one to watch first. But we're doing the 1997 TNT original movie Assault on Devil's Island, later known as Shadow Warriors. There you go.
Yeah, it's one of those ones, just a confusing one. But you know what's the interesting thing is when I'm reading all about this movie was like a huge deal for TNT when it came out. I don't even know how I kind of missed it. Seems just one of those ones. Like I must have just been watching a different channel as this was sort of going on, at this time period. But like they promoted the hell out of it, like saying this is going to be the biggest movie ever for TNT. Like they're putting all the, stuff going on there. They had it like a big old, I think it was a Sting and Hogan match. And they like really like pumped this thing up the whole time during it. Like every commercial break, there was a Shadow Warriors like trailer on there. And I don't know if you watched the trailer. The trailer is actually really good.
I didn't watch the trailer. I didn't remember this initially. I had never seen this. But as I was watching the movie, it sparked some memories, and I remember it being promoted because if you're a wrestling fan, Starrcade 1997 takes place in December. And that movie, that match was built up for an entire year, really almost a year and a half. Because, Sting goes away, NWO kicks his ass, he comes back with the crow face paint, and then there's a whole year where they're leading up to this mega match at the end with Sting and Hogan. And they were going to have a contract signing. I remember the contract signing. And the contract signing was going to take place in the commercial breaks of this movie. So Eric Bischoff, who was whatever he was I don't know what his official title was at WCW, but he was important. Like, pretty much the most important person there, other than Ted Turner, who owned it. He's like, Bischoff was running. Yeah, he's top dog. He produced this movie, so because he was more intertwined with TNT itself than he was just WCW. So he produced this. And so, yeah, there was the contract signing in the commercial breaks of this movie, which they showed on Nitro the next week. Mike, so you really didn't miss anything. But yeah, they had a 4.2 rating, which is pretty damn good.
Yeah, it said it had a real high rating on the TV score. It did extremely well, had a lot of viewership. It was supposed to be the big turn for Hulk Hogan's career because he did all the family kind of kids movies, and they're like, okay, Hulk's gonna get serious this time. You know what? He's coming in. He's got a full head of hair, which actually looks pretty good on him. I'm gonna say, like, when you see him in a full, because Hulk Hogan's bald since 72. He never has hair.
You know what's weird?
I
didn't notice this until somebody pointed it out in the comments, and it's kind of true that with that hair like that, he kind of looks like Mel Gibson.
Yeah, I didn't think about that too, but he definitely does, and he also shaves in this one too. So he's kind of going what's one of those ones that this is one of those things that you could, if you were flipping through TV and you turned it on, and maybe you know who Hulk Hogan is because he's just an icon, but if you weren't a huge wrestling person, you flipped it on, it might take you a moment because it's just he looks quite different. He has no signature Hulk Hogan stuff kind of going for him. He's got this ginormous lock of hair, like he's Fabio or something like that. And then he's rough shaven, Miami Vice style.
Yeah, rough shit. Yeah, he's got the 5 o'clock shadow going on, and this is those years where it's like Thunder in Paradise, where Hogan, he was starting to kind of get out of this a little bit because he was NWO was a thing, so he's traveling every week with wrestling, but. There was that period where he wanted to just stay in Florida. He didn't want to do anything outside of Florida. And, so all of Thunder in Paradise was filmed basically at Disney. It's the scenes in the parking lot, the scenes behind Space Mountain, so everything was filmed, Disney property somewhere. And I think this one was filmed in Miami, Key West. I know the fort that they go to in this, as soon as I saw it, that's my number one camping destination. I've been wanting to camp there my entire life at that fort because it's so fucking cool. The whole island is the fort.
Yeah.
And this is another 5 o'clock shadow, Terry Bollea, Hulk Hogan. I want to stay in Florida and make my money and stay near my family. And he got his wish, and he got to make this. He got to do a lot of cool things in the 90s.
No, it's really true because it's this movie is one of those ones that honestly, it's for a television movie. I mean, it is kind of in that kind of cheesy action fun, but it does have a lot kind of going for it. It's got tons of action and it's got a bunch of characters in there. It's almost like Hogan's Commando is what it sort of feels like, but it's also kind of a proto Expendables at the same time too.
People were saying that. I can't remember the first Expendables. I have seen it. I can't remember it. But they were talking about how the first Expendables kind of ripped this off a little bit, which I guess I can remember. But that somebody else mentioned the Expendables when they were talking about this one.
I mean, I don't know about. I mean, it's more. I would say it's got the Expendables feel because it's a group of it's a team of here's some somewhat celebrity people kind of in here and so on because beyond Hulk Hogan, you also got, of course, Carl Weathers, which is really he's here, but he feels like he's one of the ones. He's too good for this entire movie. That's the thing. 100%. It's you literally have I think Carl Weathers. He's that actor who just never really got the proper break. I feel like he's a AAA actor who's always been either the secondary character or he kind of gets B movies. He's just never got he should be in that same category as Mel Gibson and so on like that. He's that good of an actor. He could pull off all that stuff. He's got a body that literally rivals both Arnold and Stallone and all that stuff.
Yeah. I would, that's what Action Jackson was supposed to be. We've talked about that movie before.
Yeah.
And, maybe things would have been different if, Tim Burton got his third, Batman movie, because wasn't he supposed to play Two-Face?
Well, that's not Carl Weathers. That's Billy D. Williams.
Oh, I'm getting my black people mixed up. What wasn't he supposed to be something in Batman though?
No, I think because Billy D. Williams was playing Two-Face.
No, you're right about that, but I feel like he was supposed to do something in Batman. But maybe I'm okay. Maybe I'm thinking wrong. But either way, yeah, I just get my black guys mixed up. But no, but yeah, Action Jackson was supposed to be his thing. That was supposed to be his, coming out party, and the movie wasn't very good. And but he was good, and he is good in everything. Even when you watch a Predator, you feel like he's just better than the people he's around. Yeah. And like he gets lumped in with Jesse Ventura and Hulk Hogan, and let's face it, we both love Arnold. Arnold's not the best actor either, and but he's great in the Rocky movies. Mm-hmm. And there's some good acting in there, and people kind of look past it because after Rocky 1 is kind of it's more of a popcorn franchise, but it's some of those scenes with Rocky and Apollo Creed in those movies, he's a good actor, man, and he's good in the Mandalorian show that's out right now.
Oh yeah. I know that was one of the things that really excited me about that was that it's like, oh, I got Carl Weathers in there, But yeah, in this movie here, he's like, I mean, it's a perfect example. It's like his acting is just there. You believe everything Carl Weathers sort of says. The rest of the movie's all got the hokey kind of feel to it, but the second Carl Weathers is in there, it's like it gets serious for a moment.
Well, when what I noticed, there's this one scene in particular where Hogan and Carl Weathers have like a little bit of a spat, like they're arguing, and Carl Weathers gets a lot of dialogue there, and all Hogan's responses are very short. One word, okay, yeah, okay, all right, and that's what he's doing. And then Carl Weathers is like, really, because they can't be on the same page there because it's just not going to work, because Hogan's just not that kind of actor. He's there for muscles.
Well, it's one of those ones like Hogan's that guy that's like, no matter what, I don't care. I'm always so excited to see him in a movie, even though he really isn't the greatest actor. And I don't know. Yeah, it's like, why exactly? You know what I mean? It's like one of those ones, but so it's like, yeah, you get his kind of quick, kind of like mean mugging the camera kind of looks, and his one-liners, and
he has that one where he's like, and he like gives that mean look for like an extended period of time. Yeah, he's pretty rough. And then of course, hey, you have Shannon Tweed in here too, Playmate of the Year from back in the days, and Hogan's here for muscles. She's here for movies. That's it. The
interesting thing too is I was looking it up. She's literally 40 years old in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, well, she's looking really good.
Yeah. She was like 57. That makes sense. But my goodness, man. And she does look really, really good in this movie. And it was so comical the way they found the most ridiculous ways, especially at the end of this movie, to get her in the skimpiest clothes possible. It's worse than any Bond movie. It's worse than Predator, when the girl's just losing clothes as it goes on. It reminded me, I don't know which Hot Shots it was, but the one where you got the girl that's from Rain Man.
I think that's the second one.
Yeah, I think it is the second one, and they make fun of that in that movie where she just, I have to lose this article of clothing, and just the whole time, and that's basically what this was. That was just so ridiculous, but I'm sure that was very different when it aired on TNT, like especially the opening scene with her. They couldn't have aired that on TNT.
No, that came on the Canadian VHS. I read that in there too. That like, so yeah, because when I saw that nudity, I'm like, what? I can't imagine that being on TNT back in the day. Like, no way. I mean, it would have to play at like 1 a.m. or something like that, and have like one of those really weird slots where it's like, okay, no one's really gonna notice, but
yeah, even then they probably couldn't have got away with it. You can't have TNA on TNT.
Yeah,
not that way anyway. But yeah, I was like, what?
It really threw me off. I'm like, I'm glad somebody addressed this in the Wikipedia article, because I was really confused on that. I'm like, wait, so this did come on TNT, right?
Yeah, she's, and that's like within the first 5 minutes of the movie, I'd say.
Yeah, well, it's after like when Hogan's doing his like deep kung fu training out there in like the fire like pit.
Okay, we're launching into our review. because I want to start with that. So let's go into our rewind review. So, all right, this movie's stupid as hell, but I loved it. But
Yeah.
two things about this. We talked about Thunder in Paradise a while back. Something that's familiar with that, they had an opening pilot movie for that.
Mm-hmm.
And we watched it. And we watched this. And something about that movie and this movie, they tried to make Hulk Hogan's big, giant 6'8" ass look agile. They do all these things to try to make him look like he's never been. He's not. He is not. He's not even agile in the ring.
No, he's all beat up by this point still.
Yeah, like he never was. He's a giant, massive dude, but they got him out there doing like some Tai Chi and like, doing all this stuff. But then they have him, even at other times in the movie, they have him doing like trying to do Kung Fu and do all this stuff. And he does okay, but it's just like, that's not the kind of movement you're looking for from Hulk Hogan. You're looking for, Hulk.
Yeah, well, it's almost like that one. Like they should almost just like play off his strengths. I think that's the downfall. Is they try to mold him into almost a character he's not, and I think that's what makes it. That's what makes the acting a little bit more tougher for him. I think it's one of those ones. If you just gave him a straight up a Hulk character, where like the way he fights is he fights like a big guy does, where he doesn't fight all like agile and stuff. He just literally picks people up and throws them through stuff. That kind of thing.
He would pretty much all these movies we've seen, and then Thunder in Paradise and. All of them, he would have been a better secondary character, like even like Jesse Ventura in Predator.
Yeah,
he's not the main guy. Maybe a little bit more of a role than that. You can't just have Hulk Hogan relegated to like a few lines, but he doesn't need to be the main guy. I don't think. I think he's just part of the force. He's part of the the group. He's the muscle.
Yeah,
and then but he's not Jean-Claude Van Damme. That's for damn sure.
No, and I feel like this movie's trying to meld all. He's trying to. It's almost like trying to piece all that together. Like they're going to put some Stallone, they're going to put some Arnold, they're going to put some Jean-Claude, they're going to put some Chuck Norris, and they're going to try to melt this forge down. And put some Steven Seagal and create Hulk Hogan in that kind of way. When it's almost like you should just play straight off his strengths and so on like that. Because the one thing I always wished, and I'm kind of bummed because I know this will not happen at all by this point, but that. They never utilized Hulk Hogan in the Expendables. And I always felt like it would have been interesting to see what Stallone would have directed him as, you know what I mean? And I think in the Expendables, that would have actually been a perfect way for him to be in there because he could have been one of the, the characters in there that's got the cool cameo, a handful of lines, and he gets just to Hulk up in there and show off. But then that's all you got because you got Stallone and everybody else to kind of carry the story.
Mm. Yeah, I think, and it's funny because, we bring up Stallone again. They were both in Rocky III, Hogan and they just were on the screen at the same time. But yeah, I don't think he was ever utilized correctly. And because even Arnold, big action star, you don't see he's not doing karate.
No.
He's big. He's holding big guns. He's throwing people. Throws the knife, stick around, that kind of thing. But I will say, what's funny is how accurate Hogan is in this movie with even the blow dart right in the neck, like first try. Like that was pretty funny.
Well, his character really is like the ultimate master guy who that's all he does all day long is hangs out at his beach bungalow, practices kung fu and different ways to kill people. Which is my dream life, actually. I think, sounds perfect.
Live in Key West. Oh my gosh! I think most of this movie was around Key West because I know that fort is in the Tortuga is just towards it's way out there. It's not as further south than Key West, but it gets like one of those things that's just doesn't even seem like it's part of the country, but it is. But yeah, Hogan he's not The Rock or Roddy Piper or really Batista's. I think maybe as an actor and Cena.
Yeah, John Cena's good.
I think John Cena might actually be better than The Rock. I think maybe, yeah.
Well, the Rock really lives off The Rock charisma. I think that because that's the thing is that they know how to tailor his roles to like a Rock role, And I think that's the key thing. And that was the problem with Hogan, is that they never really figured out how to tailor it towards the Hulk, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, that too, and he just was never with, other than Rocky 3 when he was playing that small part, he was never with a Stallone like type director. Like he was doing, High Noon on Mega Mountain, and that, what was that? Not Mr. Mom, but it was something like that. Or
Suburban Commando, Mr. Nanny.
Yeah, Mr. Nanny. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, he did all those things, and he was never in anything particularly good. I would have liked to see him in an Expendables type thing as a side character. And, maybe, I don't feel like he ever took any acting lessons. I might be wrong, but I don't feel like he did.
Well, that's the thing. I kind of do wonder if by the time Hulk got kind of into movies, if he kind of got to that point where, maybe he felt like he was like, oh, I don't need those acting lessons. I've been doing, the wrestling, I'm live on TV all the time. And then, like, one of those kind of things. Because it does sort of feel like, if he just kind of spent, maybe he did do a little bit, but I mean, like, if he really kind of, did like what Arnold did, and Arnold really like trained hardcore, like at acting, like, before he kind of was doing the movies and so on like that, he really did put in all the effort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this feels like just a part of his portfolio. This doesn't feel like, he took it too seriously. This is because remember he had that pasta restaurant for a while. Yeah. Because I think it's the first Monday Nitro. He's talking about, oh, come on down here and get some Hulk Hogan pasta, Mall of America. Like, what the fuck is this? So he's always been a businessman and been able to make a lot off his brand. So I don't know if this is just like whatever. Fuck it. Sounds like a fun time.
I think that's what a lot of these things are. It's just like, hey, we you know what? We're going to go out and make a movie. We're going to shoot it in 14 days. You know what I mean? Like, I heard that schedule, like, Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, we're just going to get it in, and, it just kind of worked that way. But, it's like, I'll use another example is Chuck Norris, because Chuck Norris even said himself that, like, the movies are supposed to be structured. He's like, I know I'm not the greatest actor, so I structure the movies around the way to get it so that, I can deliver like the way that I can deliver, a Chuck Norris performance each time, the way that the movies are. And that's almost, I think, like what makes that kind of work out. Because a lot of times, like, there's really not such thing as necessarily bad actors as much. A lot of times it's like, it's a triple effect of like, it's a screenplay, an actor, and a director. You know what I mean? And a lot of times only 2 out of 3 of those need to be good, and that'll fix the third one.
Yeah. A lot of fixing for Hogan, but this is a fun movie. It feels like an extended episode of like a Baywatch or a Thunder in Paradise or one of those type shows, but just with more budget, bigger explosions. Yeah. That's what it is. It feels like a 2-parter episode of one of those. It's but that's the quality you're getting. That's the quality of acting you're getting. That's the quality of screenplay you're getting. It's, whatever. But that's kind of what it feels like. But I don't have the full cast in front of me. But I also, of course, you have Hulk Hogan. You have Carl Weathers, you have Shannon Tweed, which we'll talk about her in a second. You have Priest Kreese, or whatever his name is, from the Karate Kid movies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he's kind of like he's actually kind of like Carl Weathers' role in Predator.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have that. And
then you also have Trevor Goddard, or whatever it is, Fraker, who, that's the dude who plays what's his name in Mortal Kombat? I just drew a blank all of a sudden. It's that late night thing. Kano. Yes. Because that was the first thing I looked at him like, God, is that Kano right there? It sure looks like it. If not, he's really played it. It's just like, and boy, does that guy get typecasted. It's like, who are you going to be? I'm going to be the evil Australian guy every time.
Yeah, this is what you are. Hey, you also have Tybo.
Yep, you got Billy Banks. I almost feel like that's one of the big selling points of this movie. It's like, if you said like, hey, here's a movie where Hulk Hogan gets to fight, Tybo, Billy Banks at the end of the movie, you're like, what? I gotta see this.
Boy, I'll tell you right, that feels like a post 99 Nitro anyway. Like, because when they were dwindling down into the end of like a post-hype WCW and Attitude Era was going on, and they're like, oh, fuck, we got like this Norman Smiley guy. What do you got? Hey, bring the Tabo guy in. Put him on a main event. Just put a fucking belt on him. And everybody's like, what the fuck? Just put a belt on Billy Banks. Okay?
Yeah. It's kind of funny because that's a perfect example of a guy that, like, you know, for anybody of the 90s, like that guy was like a humongous celebrity for like those like glorious like 5 years or whatever. I mean, humongous. Like he was on all those infomercials. He was like he was the dude if you wanted the at-home workout. You know, you were gonna get the Taibo and you were gonna level yourself up with doing kung fu at the house.
You had Billy Banks and like Miss Chloe or whatever her name was, the fortune teller lady.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they scam people out of all their money. What was her name? I think it was some Chloe or something to that effect. She's dead now, but she's scammed a lot of people out of her money. I think they're making a movie about her, actually.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if he's gonna play her, but I will watch that one. But yeah, he was on TV all the time, and so it took me a second. Like I saw the name, I'm like, where do I know that name? And then it hit me. I'm like, oh my god. Yeah, that was
like I always think like the celebrity deathmatch one where he was in it, and you know, and then like he takes, I can't remember who he fought in the episode, but like he literally like goes from like Taibo, and like he like levels himself up from like, you know, beginner mode, intermediate mode to expert mode, and then just whoops whoever that he's battling's ass. I can't remember, he's battling stuff. I think he's battling is Richard Simmons actually. I'm pretty sure that was what the celebrity deathmatch episode was.
That makes total sense. That makes total sense. Oh, sweating to the oldies.
And Richard Simmons stood no chance.
Oh, absolutely no. Billy Banks would kill Richard Simmons. Oh man. Oh, Richard Simmons. I got a Richard Simmons VHS right here behind me. That's nice. The oldest, yeah. But yeah, that was pretty fun. I was disappointed. I was expecting to see some more wrestlers in there, kind of like Thunder in Paradise. And since Bischoff was, you know, doing it, like I was sitting there typecasting. I was like, man, what other wrestlers could you got in here as like some of the crew? You know, but Piper was the only really good one I could think of.
Yeah,
that could jump in there. But you know, it'd been fun to see Sting or Luger, or you know.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could try out some other guys in there. You know,
Chris Benoit definitely could have been the Australian guy part.
Yeah, Chris. You could almost have Chris Jericho at that time here, wasn't he in WCW '97?
He was, but he wasn't like Chris Jericho yet.
Yeah, I know. But I was just thinking if they just scooped up some people for like background kind of guys that like, you know, they were only gonna have a line or two.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked that like you could have had Macho Man in there. That'd have been fun.
Yeah, I feel like Macho Man would have to. He would almost end up being like the Carl Weathers character. I couldn't imagine Macho Man being like fourth rung on the list or something like that.
Oh yeah, it would have been great if he was Carl. I mean, I love Carl Weathers.
Yeah,
but if it was like, you were gonna go back to that island, yeah, we the gutter people down there, we're gonna go back, yeah. That would have been fun just to watch him do Macho Man the whole time, like not even try to do anything different because he did in Spider-Man. He souls ready, so it's just like.
Or in like the King of the Hill episode too, which I love the one where Macho Man's in that.
I don't think I've seen that.
It's like one of the greatest episodes. It's like they literally get by this like gymnasium setup from the old high school or something like that. So like Bill sets it up in his garage, and you know he goes down to pretty much like a GNC and then gets hooked up with the guy there. The guy's like, "Oh, you got your own gym at home? Well, that's okay. Me and the gang will show up over there." And it's like Macho Man and whatnot. Like, put on the death metal to work it out now. and then they pretty much bully everybody else out of there and whatnot.
I need to go watch that one.
There's just like three guys, you know, they're just all jacked up and everything like that and so on like that. And then there's part where Hank's like, hey, you know, maybe do some cardio there or something like that. Cardio! It's amazing. You gotta check it out. I can't remember what season it's in. Probably like somewhere about dead center, like 7 or something like that. 8.
God, see, this is what would happen if they gave us money to produce movies. Can you imagine what we would do if we were producing movies? Like we threw just the most random shit in there. So he can't act. I didn't ask if he could.
It doesn't matter. It's about fun. You know.
Oh my gosh.
Well, a lot of times I always feel acting really is not the most important part, or even it might not even be in the top 5 most important parts of a movie, because you could have an amazing movie and have terrible acting. It doesn't matter.
It's near the top if it's really good or really bad. If it's really, really good, it can these are some silly examples, but like even Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow is such a game changer for how that movie is. Like that it takes it to a whole nother level. Or like Daniel Day-Lewis and There Will Be Blood or something like that. Or No Country for Old Men, something like that. Like if it's really, really good, it can elevate it. And if it's really, really bad, it can bring it down. If it's just in the middle, then it's not super important. You know what I mean? But man, yeah, this one was brought down at times, but also not really, because it was appropriate for the level of the movie, the kind of movie it was.
Yeah. Because it's just like it's a straight up action movie that does actually have quite a bit of action. Like it does deliver on that part. I will say that there's a crap ton of explosions. There's guns firing off. People throwing fists, punches, all kinds of good stuff there. It's kind of funny because like the beginning of the movie is where they go on a mission and whatnot. And it almost has the Expendables feel. You got the team of 6 guys and whatnot, and Hogan's leading the pack. They're handing out like their tarot cards to everybody.
Yeah, they're handing out tarot cards like basically what's your fortune? It's like that helicopter scene in Predator, and they're talking around. But this one guy has like these cards, like here's your fortune, and Hogan's character had already told Carl Weathers, like I had a bad dream about this, it's just going to happen. And they pulled the death card on him, like he's going to die, but he's not, because the movie's just starting.
Yeah, because we all know what we're here for, and then as it's like, the mission goes on, then it feels like it almost has, it reminds me a lot of the ending scene in Commando. Like that's kind of reminds me of, like, it's kind of going for that sort of style and whatnot. And then they lose their like young kid buddy, and that like throws Hulk Hogan's character off so much. Like, we got to go back there and get his body. It's like, dude, he's dead. Like, you're like, what are you going to do? Like, I hate to start to say it, but he's like, we got to go back to Devil's Island. Like, we got to get his body back.
Well, okay. I have mixed feelings about that part, because I think that's like a Marine. That's a big Marine thing.
I think so. Something like that.
Yeah,
we leave no one behind.
Yeah, I feel like my dad's told me that before. And a lot of Navy SEALs are Marines, which they're not. They're clearly in the Navy, as you see at the very end of the movie. But, which did seem ridiculous. Those giant men and those white suits looking like what? Never mind. I'm not going to quote it. I was thinking of Jack Nicholson and A Few Good Men. Those faggoty white suits, whatever he says. Which is a total Marine line, which makes me laugh every time. Oh man, that's what I was thinking of when I saw him sitting around there. I was just thinking of Jack Nicholson and shit. So that is kind of like a Marine thing. But yeah, I mean, I think part of that was supposed to be Hogan's character. Is he studies all these mythical, ancient warrior traditions. That's his big thing. He's about traditions. And even at the first movie, he's doing that little thing on the beach where he's like trying to, whatever. And I was like, is this Hulk Hogan? And I was like, oh shit, it is. Okay. And so I guess that was part of it. But yeah, they have a botched mission. But we forgot to mention Shannon Tweed's character. Something Wiley is her name. I just remember that because my son's named Wiley.
Yeah, Hunter Wiley.
Yeah. She's there to, you don't know it until a little bit later in the movie, but she was there on a mission for, like, I think the FBI or CIA or whatever. They're all going after this one drug lord. Mm-hmm. And she's there. And so you have this Navy SEAL team shopping in there, like, they're in Abbottabad, Pakistan, going to get Osama. And then you got this lady's like, I'm just going to show them my titties. So,
she's not going to do my Russian accent, show some titties.
Yeah, that was a bad Russian accent.
Once again, other than Carl Weathers, everybody here is kind of like, hey, you guys feel like trying some acting out? Like, that's really what this sort of is. It's a bunch of people that like are not normal actors kind of getting together, Well, other than I'll say that the Kano guy is actually a pretty decent actor too.
Yes. He's a decent actor, and yeah, but you're right. The rest of them just aren't.
Yeah, it's like Billy Blanks. Like, hey, you want to try some acting? Sure, why not?
Do I get to do Tybo? Well, kind of.
You Tybo against Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. So so they basically go down there to get this guy, and it's kind of a botched mission. And then the girl walks out. They're like, what's she doing here? That kind of throws them off. And then they sneak into the place, and they're about to kill the guy. And then that's when you find out the Australian guy set him up because he knew the Navy SEALs were on their way. And everything goes to shit. And there's a lot of explosions.
Tons of explosions. The Kano guy, which you knew was going to turn on you because he's Kano.
Yeah.
So, of course, that guy does and whatnot. And then, the young buck guy doesn't make it out of there. And that really puts, Hulk Hogan out. He's like, oh, man, can't remember what that guy's name was. That's how bad it was. Like, it was like Billy or something like that. Like, but we didn't get Billy back. And Carl was like, yo, we're not going back in there. We're all going to die if we do. Like, let's get out of here right now.
Well, a theme in this movie that happens there and then it happens later on, and the second time it happens is just so bad, is that the whole America, we don't negotiate with terrorists thing, that shit just goes out the window sometimes. Like, because they were like, I want that body back. And he's like, yeah, I'm not giving you this body. And like, fuck it, well, we'll be back later. To get him. And then later on, that something even more egregious happens. But because this movie takes a weird turn. Not that it wasn't already there, but it takes a weird turn. So so this plane goes to shit, and the Shannon Tweed's character, Hunter Wiley, also had these diamonds that were involved in this. There was a fake drug deal going on. There was these diamonds, and she, so they had invested a lot of money in this, and so the SEAL team kind of messes up her operation because Hulk Hogan's about to get beheaded. He gets captured and he's about to get beheaded, and all of a sudden she just, goes ape shit.
Yeah.
Starts kicking ass.
She goes John Woo style, just double guns and everything.
Okay, the double guns shot with her was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I actually kind of liked it. It was so ridiculous that it was actually pretty badass. I was like, she's like, I was like, and she looks way better doing it than I do. And I was like, wow, that's actually a pretty decent. It's kind of ridiculous. It's actually a pretty good shot. But so they get away from that compound, and Hulk Hogan's like, I'm going back. I'm going to go back to get my man. I'm going to go back to fuck that guy up. And everybody's like, no, Hulk, you can't do it. You can't do it. And then somehow they just that girl just ends up tagging along with them, basically. Yeah.
Well, it's like when they go to escape, I think, because Carl Weathers shows up. He's got the minigun. He's pretty much pulling a Jesse Ventura and shooting up the place. Actually, even though technically it's more Bill Duke's the one that used the minigun more than Jesse Ventura, ironically, in that movie. But it's Jesse Ventura's gun, but Bill Duke shoots a lot more rounds with it. But
yes.
But yeah, so Carl Weathers comes in, miniguns the place up, and then they all sort of escape together. And then it's like literally Shannon Tweed's just like living it like Hulk Hogan's house, like in his bungalow.
Yeah. We forgot a very important aspect. It felt like Dr. Evil wrote a portion of this movie because they escape. So they get off the island and they're like, there's no boats. And she's like, oh, there's boats underwater, or there's stuff underwater. We'll just get out of here. And then all of a sudden there's like a fucking shark attack.
Because they're swimming. And Hogan literally fights a shark underwater and stuff. It has this big, the shark bites him on like the ass or whatever. And then he's fighting it. He takes a grenade, shoves it in its throat, kicks it in the face, and it blows its head off.
When you're saying,
and then you get an amazing line later when Shannon Tweed's pulled out the shark tooth and she gives it to him, and it cuts to this close shot of the shark tooth right there. And he's like, I hate sharks. And then the camera pans up to his eyes. It was always going to be a shark that was going to do me in. I know it.
When you're describing the shark fight, you make it sound way more awesome than it was. He grabs the shark and, all the things you said happened. He grabs the shark, punches it, kicks it, throws a grenade in his mouth. Those things happen.
Shark bites him.
Yeah. It sounds way cooler than it actually was. But in theory, that was an amazing scene because it's just like you don't expect it. Like you see the sharks swimming around, and you're thinking, "Oh, they're just showing how dangerous the waters are." But now all of a sudden, one comes up and says, "I want to fucking bite Hulk Hogan," and
Yeah, just takes a bite out of crime right out of his ass.
Which I didn't know was Hogan at first because you can't really tell who's who. Kind of.
They all got scuba gear on, it's underwater.
Yeah. So he they get bit when they get back to the place. They're like, "Hey, you're bleeding." And he's like, "I ain't got time to bleed." Basically, it's his attitude, And but she just kind of tags along. He gets in this teal Hummer, which that thing, that was nice because
that was badass.
That's the exact color I want a car. I want a car that color one day.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. And that was actually Hogan's vehicle. Like it had to have been.
Yeah, and plus that's a classic Hummer too. None of this H2 junking up.
No, that was a military Hummer. He just painted it teal.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess it was maybe it was not really teal, but it was definitely not military color.
No.
So Shannon Tweed ends up going to Hogan's house, and you think it's going to be like this crazy romantic thing, which is really kind of not. They just kind of tease that a little bit.
Yeah.
She gives him some stitches for his shark bite, and then she's like, "You slept for 36 hours. I just put them on your t-shirts and worked on these skimpy clothes the whole time. I only kind of looked to your stuff." Is basically how that whole thing went.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I've been up for 36 hours as you've been asleep, so I got bored and started going through your stuff.
Yeah. And she pulls out that knife at one point in time, and he's over there sleeping on the hammock, and like, is she about to try to kill him? But no, nothing happens. That whole scene was pointless until Carl Weathers shows up. And then they have a fight. Like, Hogan's like, "I'm going back." And he's like, "You're not going back, man. You're not going back, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "I'm going back." And he's like, "No, you can't go back for this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason." And Hogan's like, "I'm going back." Pretty much. That's like the dialogue. That's pretty much it.
Well, I can't remember because Carl Weathers he's like, "I'm getting out of this. I'm starting up my, I don't know what he's like. I'm starting up a restaurant or something like that. And this is it. I'm done for it." I can't remember what he said. He was starting up some business, and then Shannon Tweed does a thing. She's like, "Well, if we go back, the CIA can pay you, whatever. We got stipends for this or something like that, and get your restaurant started."
Yeah, there was like a 20% thing with the diamonds or something like that.
Yeah.
Get the diamonds back. So they're like, "Okay, we'll go back." And the whole time, there's this other character. It's the guy who plays the kickboxing coach in Karate Kid.
Yeah.
He's Carl Weathers' Predator character for the Predator. He's kind of used to be one of the guys, but now he's not.
Now he's a pencil pusher.
He's a pencil pusher, and they're like, "Used to be for us." He's like, "Now I'm not." I'm into the politics and stuff, and he's trying to tell them not to go back and stuff. But while they're debating, while Hulk Hogan and Carl Weathers, what's Hulk Hogan's name in the movie? Does it fucking matter?
Mike McBride.
Yeah, it's Hulk Hogan.
Hulkster.
Yeah, it's Hulk. While they're debating if they're going to go back to the island, and they decide they are going to, there's this meeting happening somewhere at a CIA headquarters, because in the middle of all this, so, okay, we got to piece this together a little bit. We're not telling you the whole story, but we got to piece together why this one weird thing happens in the movie that I'm not really sure it needed to happen at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I must have missed something. So maybe you can explain to me why they did it. But so the drug lord, during that big fiasco at the beginning where things go to shit, the drug lord still gets arrested. Mm-hmm. And Hogan and then bring him back. And then the turncoat guy, the Australian bad guy who was part of the team and then fucked everything up on purpose, he's
Kano.
back at the island. Yeah, Kano. And Kano and whatever that guy's name is, the drug lord, work out a deal to get him out of prison.
Yeah.
And so they can, both get what they want, have this whatever thing. And so they somehow decide the best way to do that is kidnap a bunch of gymnasts.
Yeah, gymnastic teenagers. I think they're supposed to be Olympic ones, but it felt like they just went to some high school and just said, "Give me your gymnastics team."
Yeah, they won some award, but it is so bizarre. where, because I read that in the synopsis and I'd forgotten about it. And then I saw the gymnastics team. I'm like, okay, they're really going to do this thing. This is going to be a big part of the movie now. And somehow this team of, I just want to know how this was pitched. Somehow this team of gymnasts they get kidnapped and they're taken down to to Devil's Island, which is, I think it's Fort Jefferson. And the Drive Tortugas, the whole island is a fort. So it's a real location. They didn't do anything to that. I mean, that's really what it looks like. Mm-hmm. And they take the girls and guys and throw these gymnasts into a cage in this water thing. And they're going to kill them all within like 36 hours. So now the pencil pusher goes to Hogan and Carl Weathers. Is like, we got to go down there and get them, because the CIA just said, yeah, let's just negotiate with the terrorists. Like, they didn't even think twice about it. Like, just give him what he wants.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's America's gymnast there.
Yeah, this is like, listen, we're trying to win gold here, okay? We can't lose to Russia.
Like, well, it's like there's that poor little short-haired girl. Like, Billy Banks was literally holding her over the side of the mountain and gonna chuck her over.
They picked on that one girl the whole time. I was the whole group, but that one little girl.
Girl.
They made her make the Al Qaeda like hostage tape. like help, I'm a hostage or whatever, and blah blah blah. They made her do that, and then when they drug her ass all over the island because you needed like a human shield or whatever. Yep. that poor little girl, man.
Yeah. Well, the first part is Kano just literally like, I'm gonna take you up to my room right now. Come on. And you're like, oh Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, it got a little weird there for a minute.
Yeah, and then Billy Blanks is literally holding her above his head, like, say anything with like the boombox. At one point, like he's gonna chuck her off the edge, like Donkey Kong throwing a barrel.
They really did mess with that girl the whole time. Oh man, that's crazy. So yeah, basically the whole gymnast subplot is just stupid. It just didn't need to happen. I feel like they could have contrived some other way to do this, but it just seems so ridiculous that there was this drug thing going on, and now there's just a bunch of gymnasts involved. It's like, you know what this movie needs? Gymnasts. What? Gymnasts are so hot right now. We need gymnasts. Okay. So
this is one of those weird ones that sometimes I don't feel like everything needs to be so connected, but what that really needed is one of those gymnasts should have been somebody's daughter, like or kid, whatever. It should have been either Carl Weathers or Hulk Hogan's, or even Shannon Tweed. One of the three main characters should have had like a connection of that, and then that brought it more home. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it could have been either one of them, because they both mention they have a kid that doesn't live with them, like a teenager that lives other places, and you're right. That would have made it make more sense.
Yeah, and it really that short-haired girl was because she's the one that seems so prominent. That should have been related to one of them, and that would have been like the perfect thing of like, that's why I have to go all in.
Mm-hmm. It would be good if it was Carl Weathers.
Yeah, because I feel like that would be the thing. Is like he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't like they got your daughter, Carl. You know what I mean? Like one of those things.
Yeah, you're right, man. We should have wrote this movie. I think things that would have changed if we wrote this movie. One, the shark fight would have been way more dope.
Yeah, because it sounds too cool when you explain it.
Yeah, it sounds so cool when you explain it, and it just does not live up to that. But in theory, it's amazing. Hulk Hogan's going to fight a shark. Yeah, I'm in.
It's like, I don't know what's more amazing: Hulk Hogan fighting Billy Blanks or Hulk Hogan fighting a shark.
Guess what? This movie has both. All right, this movie has both. So yeah, but yeah, that would have been different, and we would have made the gymnast one of their kids. It's just listen,
tie it in.
That's 80s, 90s action 101, man. That's like you're 100% right. That's just too easy. Yeah, they fucked that up. But the whole gymnast subplot just so by itself is just so weird. Yeah, how they thought of that. Like, okay, they're going to kidnap a bunch of kids. Ooh, make them gymnasts. Okay. Whatever.
They did something all American because I think they were like Olympic like winners of some kind or something like that.
Yeah, could have got a fucking baseball team or something.
Yeah,
or like or the Dallas Cowboys. That's the 90s. Or imagine if they got like the 96 Bulls and threw them in there. Oh my God.
They're just all standing like that prison, like the 3 feet of water or whatever. Like
up to their shins. Okay, can we get out of here? We gotta. And Dennis Rodman's there. Dennis Rodman's in the NWO.
Yeah.
So I'm just throwing it out there. Okay, so now we figured out a few things. Okay.
What if it was just Dennis Rodman was the only one captured in there?
No.
And for some reason, he was a gymnast. Like they just gave it a real weird plot.
Yeah, it's Carl Weathers' daughter, Dennis Rodman. And then at the end, she's like, "I think I'm staying in here, Daddy, with this guy." No. Or Dennis Rodman could be one of the bad guys. That would be great.
Yeah, I mean, at this time, he was in that Jean-Claude Van Damme movie about the same year as this. I think that was 96, actually, but
yeah,
or 98, somewhere around there.
I don't think I've ever seen that movie.
I have it on DVD.
I think I have it on VHS. Double Team? Isn't that the name of it?
I think it might be.
It's like a basketball phrase. I know that.
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know. Oh man, but yeah. So they kidnap gymnasts, and basically the movie is Shannon Tweed, Hulk Hogan, Carl Weathers have to go down there and rescue these gymnasts at this giant fort island down in Florida that's surrounded by sharks. So, I mean, it is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically the last half hour of the movie is them just trying to get down there, and most of it's really cool. So all the stuff with the gymnasts about to be drowned, that's really suspenseful.
Yeah, well, and it's also an interesting cage because I thought about that. I'm like, God, if you really are just like, if you have to stand in a cage that has like 1 foot of water in it the whole time, like that's like one of those ones like that will become a real problem after about like 8 hours or so. Like, you know what I mean? Like just with your feet being continuously soaked like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're 100% right. The thing that would just be annoying, probably cold and just
and your feet would start to kind of fall apart. You know what I mean? Like when when you've been in like the pool for too long, just imagine that.
Mm-hmm. And it's salt water.
Yeah.
Which it might make it better. I don't know. But yeah, that whole cage situation was terrible. I wonder if it's really in the fort like that. Because the fort in St. Augustine has a cage that's actually kind of similar to that. They actually have a dungeon room that you have to crawl into. Oh,
really?
Yeah, I think Geronimo died at that fort.
Huh.
And yeah, and they had offshoot topic, but it's pretty cool. But the fort is much older than that one that in this movie. But yeah, there's like a little, you're going in there, and there's like this little room that they found in the 80s. And those skeletons still in the room when they found it.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And so it's a fun time for families. You could just crawl in there.
Yeah.
You have to get on your hands and knees to go in it and look around.
Uh-huh.
And I've only done it like twice. I feel kind of queasy when I do it, so I'm like, I gotta get out of here. But yeah. But that might actually be at that fort. It's Matanzas that has that cage, but still, that's kind of crazy. But yeah, they're going to basically flood those kids in there, kill them, and X amount of hours. There's a timer, so you have to have that in an action movie. There's there's a nuclear bomb. Yeah, you have the timer. And Carl Weathers is pretty much on that. But there's one ridiculous part that happens there that was so stupid. And you know what I'm talking about. There's like a guard down at the bottom of the steps. So like, how do we distract them? And Shannon Tweed just takes her clothes off pretty much.
Yeah. And the guy's like, boom.
It's just so ridiculous. I'm like, not that this movie was uber realistic anyway, but that was even too just ridiculous for this movie. It was just so stupid. Oh my God.
Well, it is kind of a weird one because like I'm thinking of this movie because the fact that like once again, let's just say she is older. So this movie is clearly geared towards the middle-aged man is really what this like target audience is. It's not really geared towards, I feel like, anybody young. Because, it sounds weird, but like if you would have been like 15 years old looking at Shannon Tweed, you'd been like, she seems kind of old. You know what I mean? Like a 15-year-old, I think would have looked at her and like not seen her like is like it's like the same way. I think that like you would have looked at her as like, oh wow, that seems even like especially if you're like 10 years old, she would have seemed like just looks like somebody's mother. Like walking around, you know. So I feel like it's definitely kind of has that thing where it's like, you know what, we're gonna shoot for that 40-year-old guy who remembers 1981.
Yeah. See,
you know, who's got his Kiss albums on, right? You know,
this is the other reason why you needed a teenage Carl Weathers daughter in there.
Yeah.
Ashley Banks from Fresh Prince.
Yeah, there we go.
So in there, boom, boom. See, now you have both angles there. Yeah.
Because it is kind of an old person movie when you really think about it. Like all the characters are old. There's no young characters in it except for the guy that dies in the beginning. But like everybody in it's kind of like, you know, Carl Weathers probably like 50 years old plus in this, you know.
Yeah, he's getting
Hulk Hogan's getting pretty close. He's probably like late 40s. You know, Shannon Tweed's 40s. You know, it's, you know what I mean? A lot of these characters in here are, as I said, and I feel like that's sort of who it seems like its target audience is that like middle-aged man.
Yeah, because it's 26 years ago. So, yeah, you're probably right. But see, the weird thing is that this was like so tied to Nitro.
Yeah.
So maybe there was more older men watching wrestling back then than there are now.
Yeah, well, it's like that's the thing is I think that's kind of, you know, like they picked clearly a prime audience that they were shooting for, you know. And maybe that was the whole point. Thing. Like, you know what? To get Hulkster away from these kids' movies, we got to literally just like up everybody's age.
Yeah. Yeah, that's basically what they were trying to make him a legitimate action star. And
yeah,
I'm sure Hogan wanted that too. He's probably tired of wrestling, you know?
Yeah. I think it's one of those ones. I think that the acting always seems like it's the almost the nice retirement gig, if that makes any sense. Like, you know, you did your sports in a sense, and now you can do, you know, acting, which comparatively should be much more chill and so on like that. Pretty lucrative. I think that's how everybody kind of looks at it. You know, in a sense, everybody wants to be that Arnold, because Arnold's like the definitive like archetype for like the uber successful, you know, sports star that goes literally movie star, you know. And for the longest time, everybody could never get close enough to that. They tried. There's a lot of guys that tried, but you know, they never, nobody really got that Arnold level until The Rock, realistically.
Yeah. Yeah. He's the only one that's ever been able to make that transition and actually be the top guy. He's the first person to really take that mantle from Arnold. People have gotten close, and there's been really big stars, but Arnold was the main action star. And I think they thought Hulk could be that, but he just doesn't. Hulk is kind of an anomaly, man, because he became such a big thing in the 80s and the 90s. And I don't mean this as any disrespect, because I know people like to hate on Hulk Hogan these days. He was such a big part of my childhood.
Yeah, same here.
What made him such a great wrestler was that he was this amazing babyface and then a great heel. He was equally good at both. Like that heel turn that he made, I'm like, man, that's like, I never thought that would have worked, and it did.
Yeah.
But he's kind of an anomaly where he's not that great of a wrestler. There's other people out there. You can argue Macho Man had more charisma, more like presence, but he just had this unique factor that I don't think it translated to the movies like it did to wrestling. There's something about him and wrestling that just worked so well, and you really can't describe what it was, because he wasn't the best at anything, but he was like top 2 or 3 at everything.
Yeah, and then that's really a good way to look at it, is that, yeah, it's like one of those ones. He's kind of like, he's got like his stats are almost kind of averaged out, like in a good way, but he's not really like the single most best at any one aspect. But the charisma, it's almost a weird one, because I feel like in the long run too, if people like 100 years from now look back at like Hulk Hogan stuff and go, that seems like a weird kind of like the way that he looks and everything like that is like, that's what people were like ultra, like that guy was a megastar. Because you think about like nowadays, could you imagine a guy being, in a sense, being bald and pretty much having a skullet, being, you know, with handlebar mustache, being like the most famous guy of all time, and like you know what I mean, like it's a weird look when you think about it. Like I don't think anybody could pull that off, like something like that again, and just have it be normal. Like like nobody questioned it really.
And every time you think he's down, he comes back. Like I thought he was down a few years ago. Now he's kind of he's been doing some PR stuff, and
but he's still just like in super great shape and everything like that. Like he's fitter than mostly everybody else at like age 70.
Yeah, he's just about to turn 70. Plus, I don't know if it fell through the cracks. They're making a Hulk Hogan movie.
Yeah, that kind of. I think that one kind of did sort of fall through the cracks. I want to say Chris Hemsworth kind of backed out a little bit of it or something like that.
Yeah, probably because they found started thinking about some things he had said and done, and they're like, we can't do this.
Yeah.
But he was working out for it. He got huge. That's why he's so big in that Love and Thunder movie, is because he was going to play Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like he's kind of making a comeback again. I don't know. I think his movie days are over, but it would have been nice to see him in like an Expendables 4 or something like that.
Now, that was the thing. I always, ever since the very first Expendables came out, I was like, man, Hulk Hogan and Carl Weathers. It's like, they're the two guys. It's like, why are they not in any of these ones here? They didn't feel like they were that far of a stretch to get in there because obviously they've worked with Stallone before, But it's just one of those ones where, having him in there would have been so cool and so on like that. And Hulk said that he was done with movies. Like, I think he's at that point where he just wants to just kind of chill and relax. And, once in a blue moon, he'll do a signing, but he's not going to do a whole lot. He's not going to tour any of those Comic-Cons. He's not going to go totally out of his way for too much stuff. I think he just wants to be kind of the beach bum, and just be the Hulkster kind of in retirement.
Mm-hmm. Hold on one second. I just want to see where I was at. Well, he had that Grinder lawsuit. He made all that money. So, so he's set. He doesn't have to, I think he was in debt there for a while. I think his family kind of fell apart and he was in debt. So now he's,
they pretty much took all his money for a good while. And then, and then he's also got his Hulk Hogan weed coming out, just like Ric Flair and all that stuff.
I did hear something about that. I knew Ric Flair had some stuff come out.
Well, because Ric Flair said that he made more money doing that so far than he has in his entire career of wrestling.
Wow.
But Ric Flair also said that he always kind of had the shoddy contract compared to everybody else because he still like had his contract like carried over from like the NWA days or whatever, like when he got into WCW. So he didn't get like the big sign-on bonuses like all the WWF guys did.
Mm. Hey, good for him. He needs to get out of debt because that man is a medical marvel.
that guy's he's just the dream.
Well, he almost died a few years ago, and I thought he had kind of cleaned up. But from what I've been hearing, like Hulk Hogan was on Theo Von podcast.
Yeah.
And he's still doing the same stuff. He's still going out and drinking and partying. I've seen that version of Ric Flair in person.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how he's still alive? I'm like, I don't know. But
that's the thing. He's got that Keith Richards thing going where like the more like intoxicated they get, the longer their lifespan grows.
At a certain point, maybe it just becomes preservatives.
I think so. I think that's kind of what it is, But
the Stones get those blood transfusions.
Yeah,
that's the key. That's what they do for real.
Yep.
So, but yeah, Shadow Warriors #1. So the first one, just in case you go watch these, Assault on Devil's Island. That's the first one, and then 2 is something Death Mountain, I think.
Yeah, Assault on Death Mountain or something like that.
Yeah, they didn't really get too creative with these names, but and you've already watched the second one, right?
No, I just watched this one twice because this movie was one of those ones that it felt like it took us almost like it was like a month and the making of doing this podcast. So I felt like I'm like, man, I gotta watch this again just so it's like a little bit more refreshed in my mind, like know. So I've watched it twice, and I'm like I'll savor the second one for when the time comes. But realistically, I'm actually kind of looking forward to watching the second one because all in all, this movie's corny and goofy, and it's totally made for TV, but I feel like it's totally made for me at the same time, too. Like, I really enjoyed it. Like, it's like one of those ones when I watch this, I'm like, this is my kind of movie right here. Like, I'm not going to, like, this just takes me back. This feels like, I'm kind of bummed I didn't watch it as a kid because maybe it's just that weird time period where like, I watch more WWF than I watch WCW, and maybe that's how I kind of fell out of it there and so on like that. But I feel like if I would have saw this in like 97, oh, this movie would have been like way up. I probably would have watched it a bunch of times. I could have seen this being like one of those ones, like my tape copy off of TNT would have been on repeat all the time.
Yeah, I'm surprised I never watched this too, because I was a massive WCW watcher. I basically, I had to sneak and watch WWF. My mom didn't want me to watch it, so I had to, tape one, watch the other kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I couldn't always make that work. So, but WCW every week I could make work. And I'm surprised I didn't watch this back in the day too. But I do remember it being advertised now. Mm-hmm. And I do remember some of that stuff. I don't think I watched a contract signing as a commercial in between the commercial breaks, but I think I watched it, on Monday nights for the next week. But oh man, Assault on Devil's Island. It's a fun time. It's a pretty impressive TV movie. Having Carl Weathers in there, again, he's way too good for this, but it's cool to see him in there.
Yeah.
I think having Hulk Hogan and Carl Weathers in a movie pretty much by itself makes it worth watching.
Yeah, well, that was the thing is when it was on one of those podcasts. I think it was either the Joe Rogan or the Theo one, and he just literally name dropped this movie like, oh yeah, me and Carl Weathers, were in this movie in '97, and I was like, what? I literally pulled over on the side of the road and like, I gotta look this up right now, and that was how I found these ones there because I was like, how have I missed these my whole life? Like I thought I was all caught up on all of Hulk Hogan's movies. I've seen all his kid ones. I've seen Thunder in Paradise, all that kind of stuff. And then when I was like, there's 2 other ones out there, like, and I actually found a third one because the same director that did this, there's another Hulk Hogan movie that they made like somewhere. I don't know if it's in between these 2 movies or right afterwards, but there's almost like a third movie. It's not related, but it's another one where it's an action movie with Hulkster, TNT, something like that.
I saw the poster for it. On IMDb when I was looking at this stuff. And, I thought this was better than Thunder in Paradise. It's not as fun as Thunder in Paradise. Thunder in Paradise has a really cool gimmick to it. And a cool
the boat.
Feel with a boat, but just the friendship between those 2 were more developed in the movie. And they were wanting to make, I read in the trivia that they were wanting to make a series out of this. So this was supposed to be what Thunder in Paradise was too. Like you have the movie and then you have a series. They were going to do that with this. And they were going to do like 23 episodes and they never did it. They just ended up doing the second movie. But if they had done a series, maybe the Carl Weathers, I don't think Carl Weathers wanted to do a series. This is what I think happened.
Well, I think it was that. And then Hulkster had some kind of like, qualms of how he wanted to go, and he wanted a big chunk of it. And it sounded like it was like, okay, this is getting too expensive too fast. Let's just do a second movie. That'll work for everybody. Go for there and be done.
Yeah, I don't see either Carl Weathers or Shannon Tweed committing to 26 because she always had to work. She was doing those B movies left and right. So
yeah.
Gene
Simmons is like, go out and make money for me.
Oh, was she married to Gene Simmons? Is she? Yeah,
she's married to Gene Simmons.
I did not know this.
Oh, really?
No,
that's literally how I know about her. That's Gene Simmons' like kids. That's their mom.
Oh my God!
So they've been together since like the 90s, or maybe even earlier than that, like the late 80s or something like that. I can't remember.
That is right. I knew that's why I was like, the name sounds more familiar than what I'm thinking of. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because that was like the triple threat when I heard that, because I was like, oh shit, Carl Weathers, Hulk Hogan, and Shannon Tweed, because I was just thinking like, oh yeah, because I think of like when Gene Simmons had the show Family Jewels. That's where you saw a lot. Or at least where I saw a lot of her at was in that show.
Gene Simmons should have been the drug lord.
Yeah, that actually would have been cool. And that wouldn't have been that far off because Gene Simmons loves acting anyway, so.
Yeah. See, we should have produced this movie. We go back and get a time machine, we'll fix this movie.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Something's missing there, Real quick, I want to say this is that other movie's called The Ultimate Weapon, 1998. That was directed. Apparently, that's the only rated R movie that Hulk Hogan's in.
Hmm.
So I thought that was a made for TNT movie, but it looks like it's just a Canadian movie.
Hulk's trying to go up to Canada. You know,
It's actually like Hulk Hogan's got like I like he's got a big old mustache in it, like Burt Reynolds style, but he's got like full head of hair, but it's combed back. You know, it's not long in this one, but it actually looks pretty badass.
Hey, I'll give it a try.
You know,
the Hulk Hogan filmography. Oh man, this was fun. If you were a big wrestling fan back in the day, if you like Carl Weathers, if you like cheesy, campy B movies, this is a fun one to watch. It's I will say one positive thing: the action was pretty coherent.
Yeah,
you know how I talk about the geography of the scene, but I do hate it when things just make no sense. What are you shooting at? Why are you here when that guy's there? Where are you now? What's happening? This was actually pretty well structured. I mean, it's no Michael Mann heat, okay, but it's pretty. I was pretty impressed by that. Like the whole siege of the compound at the beginning that goes awry, you pretty much knew what was going on. It was well directed, well put together.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the thing.
Well, that's the thing is I think that overall for a TV movie, it's actually pretty solid. You know, for a TV movie in '97, like it's one of those ones where like it does deliver. You know, yeah, if you compare it to like Face Off or something around the same time period, well, you can't do that, but but it's one of those ones for what it is. Like, God, if you were sitting back at home and having a beer and watching TNT, and after some WCW, this movie comes on. You would be pretty impressed, I feel. You know what I mean? You'd be like, that was well worth my time.
Surprised this didn't come on after Nitro, because I would stick around, after Nitro and watch whatever was on sometimes, especially in the summer. Didn't have school the next day. I'm staying up and watching whatever.
Well, those are the days too where you just leave a channel on and it dictates the rest of your life for the next 8 hours.
Yeah, pretty much that. And I would be bouncing around from TNT to TBS to USA. And then if I was lucky enough to have like a free view of the premium channels, like a free view of HBO or Cinemax, you'd get those every 6 months or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a couple of weeks. And they always put the best movies on when they had that. So
because they want that money from you. They're like, hey, we'll get that subscription going. It's going to all work out. And then you get it and you're like, oh, they're just playing the same movies over and over again. I saw all these. I saw these all in the free, movie section. Then I paid for it. And then it's the same.
I look back real quick on that. My parents weren't ones to pay for that kind of stuff. They did that a couple times.
Yeah, neither were mine.
Yeah. They did a couple times pay for the premiums just for like a few months. And looking back, I think they did that for me because my dad wasn't much of a movie watcher. My mom wasn't that much either. She would have we'd go to the video store and rent stuff and watch it as a family.
Yeah,
but it wasn't like there every day. Dad was watching sports most days. Mm-hmm. And so I think they did that for me a little bit back in the day. But most of the time it was, if I had those, it was the free view that you got.
Yeah, exactly. That's the stuff. And you enjoyed every moment of it when it was there.
Oh, no, I had that VCR working overtime.
Yeah. When
you got the free views, because now you don't get to do commercials. I get that. I'm pretty sure that's how Independence Day was part of my library. Mid-90s, Batman Forever.
Yep.
I think I recorded that from one of the premium channels. Just so many of them. So, yeah, I had that VCR just running night and day when we had the previews. Oh my gosh, I was.
Well, I remember that was one of the best birthday presents you could get. Was just like, here you go. Here's like 7 more like blank VHSs.
Oh man,
have at it.
That my mama, she was a thrift store maven. Like she would go to thrift stores every day. Mm-hmm. And I mean, most of my clothes growing up, most of like my toys, except for stuff I got for Christmas. Yeah. It was still store.
A lot of thrift store stuff.
Yeah. Christmas and birthdays was different, but most of my clothes and stuff, she would go to thrift stores and she'd get blank tapes there all the time. And that's where we have all like our childhood tapes. I actually have them right here behind me. But like the ones of myself and my brother and stuff as a kid, she'd all get them from there. So we always had tons of them. And I remember she had a whole shelf full of them, just blank tapes that we would record and then re-record over.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I told you about my Uncle David with the library.
Yeah, where he just had this the massive like
FBI came in there to what is this?
Yeah. It's why they have to put the warning on the beginning of movies.
Yeah. Oh man, they had like a little he and Red Overcast and T-Town Video, they had their little VHS frame that they had. I almost got in trouble, but anyway, Shadow Warrior, way off topic, but Shadow Warriors, Assault on Devil's Island, it was fun. We'll watch the second one.
I'm 100% down for watching the second one. As I
you
said,
want to just do the second one next week?
I think so. That was my plan anyways. I was going to say, let's just go with that because we're in the mood. We're there. It's fun. It's Hulkster. It's Carl Weathers. Like, yeah, it's like in that Chuck Norris kind of vibe. That's almost like kind of the best way this movie sort of feels. Like a Chuck Norris made for TV movie is like almost like.
Yeah, Chuck Norris episode of like a 90s action show, a Baywatch, that's definitely the level of acting you get. Except for Carl Weathers.
Yeah, except for Carl. Well, that's the thing. Is, as I said, he is the odd man out in this whole movie. Like it's one of those ones you just kind of see him. He's just there because this is sadly this probably is the only gig he can kind of get. Like
the fuck's bullshit, man.
It really is. It bothers me so much because he's such a good actor, and even like literally as a little kid, like Carl Weathers was always one of those ones. Like I just was like, man, I wish I could see this guy have more stuff. You know what I mean? He's just so good. And he's always kind of been, his biggest roles are, the side characters, Predator and Rocky. You know what I mean? Still awesome. I'm not saying anything against it, but he's not in, Creed, the movie that has his name in it. He's not even in it. He's dead. He got killed off by that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't even do a flashback to Creed movies. Come on, man.
Yeah.
But yeah. Go watch this movie. It's a fun time. We watched it on YouTube. You can watch it on Roku, but you have to pay attention. The titles are fucked up. They had the wrong title on the wrong movie. So it's amazing that it's not fixed. So if you go on Roku and watch that, you have to do it there. I'm pretty sure this was on Tubi at one point recently. I might be wrong.
It feels like a very Tubi one. But
it does.
YouTube's I think there's at least 2 versions on there. The one I watched was a decent copy. It looked like it came straight off a DVD, but it had weird Eastern European subtitles was the only thing. I couldn't even tell you what country it was.
Yeah. I didn't see that one. The one I saw was a little different, but it was good. It was fun. So next week we'll do the second one. We'll see what that one's all about. We'll talk about compare and contrast, see if the acting got a little bit better. I'm surprised Carl Weathers decided to do a second one.
As I said, I hate to sort of say it, but I feel like these are the only people calling him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. TNT, man, they should put Carl Weathers in a WCW thing. I like that storyline.
Yeah.
I would have watched the shit out of that.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll see you back next week for the second installment of the Shadow Warrior series, Assault on Death Mountain. And thank y'all for listening. As always, you can go find us on social media. You go to X. I have to say it that way. It's just fun. You go to X and find me at Via VHS. You can go find me on TikTok at Via VHS, Instagram at Via VHS Pod. I feel like I'm mostly on TikTok nowadays, actually.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time. So if I do any social media content, that's usually where it's at. So you can go find me on there. But probably best to send me a message or something on X. And as always, you can go to oldmanorange.com and find all the amazing stuff Spencer does, Old Man Orange podcast and Pizza Boys with a Z comic series. And anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
I think that's it. I'm just going to get pumped and ready for some more Shadow Warriors.
Shadow Warrior. Next week I'm going to go to Burger King. I'm going to get a Surge.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
I'm in this. This is a Surge movie. This is a 1999.
Prime Surge decades.
Yeah. I'm definitely
do I have my Surge pencil here? I thought I did. I got my WC. I got my Sting pencil at least, but
So terrible. Oh my god.
Somewhere I have a Surge pencil though, because that's how I was as a kid. And like when I got something like that, I'm like, this is too cool. I'm not going to sharpen this and use it. I'm just going to keep it and put it in the drawer and savor it.
That's so funny you still have it. But man, I remember pencils were fucking currency back in the day in school. Kids today will never know. They were currency.
No.
You trade that shit. Oh man, those NFL pencils that came out at one point in time. All the kids had them, so we were trading teams. I got all the Dolphins and Panthers ones. That's all I
remember those.
Mm-hmm.
If I look hard enough, I probably have a few of those left.
Oh my gosh,
A couple NBA ones and so on.
My mom all bought me a bunch of those one year, and she got them for super cheap. And she bought me like 10 packs. So I was trading those out. Got all the Dolphins and Panthers. Had a few Raiders. I always like the Raiders.
Yep.
And there you go.
Raiders is like the ultimate underdog team of like, I feel like, especially the area I'm at. That's how I always feel.
In my lifetime, yeah, definitely. Them and the Lions. So anyway, y'all have a good one. Join us next week for Shadow Warriors 2, and Via VHS is out.